Well, how significant are these changes being undertaken now to change the structure and culture in the Canadian Armed Forces? Linna Tam-Seto, Dr. Linna Tam-Seto, is a postdoctoral research fellow in the Centre for International and Defence Policy at Queen's University in Kingston. She's with me now, as you can see. Good to see you. Doctor, thanks for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Look, let me start with the appointment we have today, the shakeup at D&D with Lieutenant General Frances Allen appointed as the Vice Chief of the Defence Staff. First woman to hold that position. How significant is that in the context of the current crisis we're watching unfold in the senior ranks of the military?
Quite frankly, I think it's due time to have some women in leadership positions. I think the government's moving quite quickly, which is a positive response to given everything that's been happening the past couple of weeks.
What change can she be expected to achieve or to try to achieve when, you know, I think there seems to be a consensus that the programs that the forces have implemented since 2015 have had little effect on the military culture so far. So what's she facing?
I think she is facing a bit of an uphill battle. I mean, being a woman of high rank within the military, she is well aware of the current military culture. So, I mean, she's in a position where she can lead and make substantive changes to what has been plaguing the military this entire time.
What do you think we should watch for?
I think we're going to be watching for someone who will start to change the tone and the culture of the Canadian Armed Forces. I mean, when we talk about sexual misconduct, we're not talking about just singular acts of sexual misconduct. This is something that's systemic. It's a culture shift that needs to happen. It's a culture that really thrives on having compliance and a very strong structure of hierarchy, which is important for given the task for what the Canadian Armed Forces is meant to do. However, what we're finding is that people are abusing that inherent hierarchy and structure of power. So what we're seeing with the appointment of Lieutenant General Frances Allen is that she might be bringing in this tone of change that, you know, that the traditional masculine, male-dominated tone and culture might be beginning to shift.
Tell me more about that. Is that what makes change so difficult in the forces? This, you know, the stuff that prepares soldiers and military personnel for a crisis response, that cohesiveness, is the same thing that tamps down this, you know, this ability to push back when there are incidences of wrongdoing. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So the military culture is characterized by compliance, of unity, of cohesion. And once, you know, anyone sort of steps outside of that or challenges, you know, any sort of instruction or culture gets ostracized. So, I mean, that's what we've seen historically, is that, you know, women are having a difficult time coming out and disclosing these incidences. And so efforts have been made to change the culture. However, I mean, we've seen, you know, various, you know, things come into place like Operation Honor, which have been implemented with, you know, very little success. Mm-hmm. So with change in leadership and sort of leading this culture change, hopefully we'll see some substantial changes.
We're expecting the government to announce soon an arm's length independent investigations body to take up complaints of sexual misconduct or racism, discrimination in the military, and take those investigations away from the military itself. How important will that new organization be?
It is absolutely vital to have something that's outside of the chain of the command. One of the things that I've heard from the research that I've been a part of is that, you know, there is very, you know, high levels of suspicion, lack of trust amongst people who sort of step outside of, you know, what is the expectation of behavior and rule is. So having something that's arm's length, that is not within the direct chain of command, will come as a great welcome for people who need that support.
An independent investigative body was, as you know, a key recommendation of Justice Deschamps' report in 2015. So we're going back 6 years now. The government seems to now only apparently be coming around to the conclusion that, yeah, the military can't investigate itself. We need to take this outside of the chain of command and outside of the military. Why is it taking so long?
I mean, there's been so many recommendations within the Deschamps report that have been implemented over time. And it does take some time to sort of have an opportunity to look back to see what the problems are. Unfortunately, the risk of that, of sort of giving some time for things to sort of play out, is that people do get hurt. So with the increased attention on what's been happening sort of at the top of the military has really spurred people and outrage right across the country saying, something needs to be done. So, they've looked back at recommendations that have been made in 2015.
Let me just quickly, in the few seconds we have left, this investigative body would, it's not clear yet whether it will report to the defense minister or to Parliament. Which should it be in your view?
In my opinion, it should be to Parliament, because Parliament represents Canadians, and this body needs to be accountable to Canadians, and this needs to be happening with consultation with the public and from people that are stakeholders.
All right, Dr. Linna Tam-Seto, thanks so much for your perspective this evening. Thanks for sharing it. We'll talk again.
Thank you so much for your time.